This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
BTW, FYI. Visit Nexplanon.com RN to learn about Nexplanon. It's an adjustral implant, 68 milligrams radiopaque. Or ask your HCP IRL. Okay, TTYL.
This is the Cats Roundtable with John Catsimatidis.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come to America.
Good morning, America. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here. We have a great show for you today. We have Dr. Peter Michalos, Live Long and Prosper. Lynn Shaw, Lynn's Warriors. We have Ryan Thorpe from the Manhattan Institute. Steve Moore, what's going on with our economy? Susan Terry and Norm Traversy, the ostriches. Well, we're not leaving this alone. They plan to sue. And we want to get to the bottom of it as why did the ostriches get exterminated and without having them tested. John Lansdale, AI. Big controversy in Washington, big controversy on Wall Street. We'll find out from John Lansdale what the story is. And let's start today with Jay Clayton, the United States Attorney for the Southern District in New York. With us today is Jay Clayton. He's the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Well, Jay Clayton, I think you have extra work to do because not only do you take care of the traditional U.S. Attorney federal stuff, that you're looking onto the city to keep it safer.
Well, John, last time we were together and talked about the operation that we did with the DEA and the New York Police Department in Washington Square Park to end the days of Washington Square Park being an open-air drug den. I'm happy to say that Washington Square Park is now a park and not a drug den. We're looking for other places around the city, other public places, if it's public housing, other parks, well-known thoroughfares, where that type of operation should be brought. And look, it's a quality of life matter. You can't have a high quality of life. You can't have safety if you have open air drug dealing, particularly if it involves fentanyl, cocaine, opioids, other drugs that kill.
Now, do you find your the job of the U.S. Attorney's Office getting even larger because of some of our cities? Well, New York City, Chicago, that the judges in those cities, they're not, that federal judges are tougher.
Well, federal law and both the detention decision by a judge when a person is charged, and then if a person who has been charged is proven to be guilty, the sentencing decision by federal judges, they are more interested in the protection of the public. In New York City, our city judges, our state judges, are not allowed to take into account the safety of the public when they make a detention decision, a bail-type decision. It makes no sense. It should be about protecting the public, John. So one of the things that we're doing is on certain weeks, we are positioning our attorneys in precincts around the city, and when we have the most violent gun-toting criminals, we charge them federally if we can, because there's a greater likelihood of detention, and if we're able to prove the case, they're going to get and serve longer sentences. And that's what New York wants. New York New York, the New York people, they want gun-toting criminals off our streets.
They want quality of life in our streets. There was an incident in Chicago where a perpetrator that has been 73 times arrested sets this woman on fire in Chicago, and the judge lets him go home.
Well, let me give you an example. Just this week, John, on Tuesday, a gentleman pled guilty to discharging a machine gun that ended up killing an innocent bystander. We charged that person federally. This happened in late August of this year. Now we're weeks later. He's already pled guilty, and he faces a 30-year mandatory minimum. If you're going to discharge a machine gun in New York and kill a bystander, you're going to do hard federal time.
Right now, the federal government is providing the checks and balances to the city and state government. That's the way I'm viewing things, because the jokes in the newspaper and the jokes on the radio is that, oh, this guy was arrested 73 times, this guy was arrested 93 times. I mean, at what point do you take these people out of the streets?
John, those are absurd examples, but there's way too many examples, and it's examples we see not once a year, but every day, where somebody has been charged 15 times, 10 times, 8 times, many cases with violent crimes, and until we get them into the federal system, they're likely to be released or do a very short amount of time.
We have a new mayor that's supposed to start on January 1st, and the mayor of the city of New York has great, big oversight over the NYPD, and there's been rumors that he has said that the NYPD has an elite unit called the Strategic Task Force, is it? And he wants to disband that unit.
And what you're talking about are their efforts in preventive policing, getting ahead of matters, strategically positioning themselves, making sure that problems are stopped before they start. They are so far ahead of the other big city police departments, and it's why we have in New York the lowest murder rate of all the big cities. To get rid of preventive policing would be a huge mistake. This preventive policing, it's actually safer for everybody. We should recognize that. You're not treating people better by pulling back on the police. You actually create more violent scenarios for everyone.
Now, that judge, and a judge is a judge, that judge in Chicago that let that person out into the streets of New York that set that other person on fire, is he committing a crime by not exercising the correct judgment or what the law is?
The laws, John, I can't pass it up, but what I can tell you is that the laws we have now, including around bail, like I talked about, and how long people are to be sentenced, I would say the perspective of a lot of big city prosecutors pleading clear felonies down to misdemeanors and the like, it's a combination of the judges, laws that are very defendant, not public friendly, and positions of prosecutors that are, leaning toward much lighter charging decisions, all combined to put folks back out on the streets. And let me make a point. If somebody's going to get a sentence of 1 year or 2 years for a violent crime, they're very unlikely to cooperate and help the prosecutors and law enforcement find the other participants in the violent crime. If they're facing 10 years, they are likely to help us and get more criminals off the streets. So there are knock-on effects to these very light sentences that are truly problematic for public safety.
One additional thing that normal people don't know, that the mayor of the city of New York gets to pick the criminal justices for the courts in New York City. What happens if he picks the same judges same as the Chicago judge that let that person go home, that set the person on fire?
I think all New Yorkers should ask themselves, do we want judges who are worried about public safety? And I think New Yorkers do, and I think our officials, including the new mayor, should hear from New Yorkers that we want a focus on public safety, and career violent criminals should not be on our streets.
U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton, have a great rest of the weekend, and thank you so much for coming on and telling the people of New York that better days are coming.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break.
It's easy to get stuck reaching for the same familiar fruits and vegetables, even when you know a colorful variety is key. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggie supplements don't replace fruits and vegetables, but it makes it easy to add more variety to what you already eat. With 31 ingredients that are whole fruits and vegetables, switching it up is easy because we've already taken care of the hard part. Go to balanceofnature.com and get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first set as a new preferred customer by using discount code POD.
BTW FYI. Visit Nexplanon.com RN to learn about Nexplanon. It's an androgestrel implant, 68 milligrams radiopaque. Or ask your HCP IRL. Okay, TTYL.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. Well, this is Dr. Peter Michalos. Live long and prosper. Well, we're using that. So what are you going to tell us about today? How do we live longer?
Well, today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic that a lot of us experience and a lot of us notice in our lives, but we don't realize that it actually causes damage, and that's our belly fat. And it's also called visceral fat. And it's different kind of fat that's like right underneath our skin. This is the fat that's deep, that's wrapped around our intestines and our heart. And another place that we actually have fat, believe it or not, is the back of our tongue. And that's why when we gain weight and the fat behind our tongue gets thicker, we actually end up with more sleep apnea. And that's why when people lose weight and the fat behind their tongue actually shrinks down a bit, you get less sleep apnea. And it turns out, how come we have a lot of people who are thin, their limbs, their legs, their hands might be thin, but their bellies become heavy? And it turns out that from the time that we introduced in the American diet industrial seed oils, and that's all these vegetable oils that they told us were much better, like canola oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil, grapeseed oil, rice bran oil, safflower oil, soybean oil, and sunflower oil. Turns out that these chemicals have something called omega-6, which is a bad fat, which does damage to our organs, hearts, and inflammations, and has something called linoleic acid. And that inflammation, turns out, screws up and interferes with our ability to process sugar and create something called insulin resistance, so we can't properly utilize that extra energy, and guess where it goes? It all starts accumulating in our abdomen and around our heart and our intestines.
And that squeezes the other organs.
It does squeeze the other organs, and it also generates inflammation, which has been shown to interfere with the ability to repair cells and to fight off cancer cells. And inflammation is like throwing gasoline into a fireplace. And once we have inflammation, we develop a lot more medical problems, and we know about all the autoimmune diseases that are aggravated. But again, as we've talked about many times, there are good oils that we should be using, and those are extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and even coconut oil. And even it's been shown, there was a lot of myths about all these different butters and the margarines, and they all have the fake oils in them. But if you eat regular, real butter that's from grass-fed cows, because those cows actually grass and not corn, they have omega-3, and actually that's not so bad for us. So having real butter that's from grass-fed cows is okay. Now, other things that we can do are to slow down this belly fat or visceral fat is when we sleep, we should try to sleep at around 68 degrees where it's cooler, because we have something called brown fat, and when it senses the lower temperature, it turns on the furnace and says, oh, the body is cold, we need to heat it up. So it's basically a way to activate your boiler and burn some fat while we sleep. We burn visceral fat when we sleep in a cooler room. It's not good to sleep in a hot room. Also, eating things like green tea and green tea matcha, which has become popular. And even when you go to a Japanese restaurant, that nice black tea they serve, the oolong tea, all those also activate the mechanisms to burn fat. Certain vegetables like cauliflower.
So what kind of tea should you have at night if you want to sleep and burn fat?
Well, you don't. That doesn't work that way, because the ones that burn fat wake you up, and those are the teas you want to have only for breakfast and lunch. At
So
night,
which one should you have for breakfast and lunch?
Green tea matcha, green tea, or Japanese oolong tea. Those are the ones that will activate and help burn fat. And the vegetables you even eat activate and burn fat, like broccoli helps burning fat, cauliflower, and the spice called curcumin, which is found in a variety of food, and many people use it for anti-inflammation. And the fish are the salmon is excellent. They did a study in Iceland.
But it has to be salmon
Wild
from the wild salmon. The farm-raised salmon is actually extremely bad for you.
Yeah, because it's fed corn, which salmon and seafood doesn't naturally eat corn, which has omega-6. Again, you need things with omega-3. And they gave salmon in Iceland to people 3 times a week for 8 weeks, and they lost 10 to 15 pounds. So they showed that fish like salmon and even white cod, halibut, mackerel, oysters, and Gulf shrimp actually also had those benefits. So if you try to eat those at least 3 times a week, it helps you with controlling visceral fat. And the side effect also of eating all these things we just discussed is it also lowers blood sugar, helps with insulin resistance, and helps, control your blood pressure.
Peter, this is Thanksgiving weekend. We all ate a lot on Thursday. We ate a lot all weekend, but I guess we better start losing it.
Yeah, well, I think also the time where we showed also that during the fast, it's basically your body starts burning the reserves. So if you're going to eat on Thanksgiving, try to skip breakfast and have a very, very light lunch before your Thanksgiving dinner. And on Thanksgiving, if it's your one meal and then you go on and fast for 16 hours, that helps to offset the cholesterol bullets, I call them, that we're going to all get on Thanksgiving. And, of course, moderation is very important. And even with a little turkey, I still put a little olive oil on it, which helps.
Understood. Now, Peter, we're almost out of time, but I want you to think about one thing. Worldwide, the rate of the Western countries, and I'm not sure if it's Eastern countries too, of having reproductive and children is way down. And there's got to be an answer to why. Is it the food they're giving us? Is it the vaccines they're giving us? But somebody has to figure out why reproductive rates. Even the viral Italians who are, they believe themselves to be men's men. They're down to 1.1 reproduction.
Well, we found that a lot of the microplastics affect hormone metabolism. All these skin lotions that we use, some of them are hormone disruptors that we rub in, even certain sunscreens and hand creams and moisturizing lotions affect us as well. The water supply and how it affects our gut microbiome. And these are all factors contributing to hormones, because when our hormones are turned upside down, that affects our reproduction. And then there's also some...
I'm going to discuss it with Secretary Kennedy, because he has to get on top of this, because if we keep going, if all the Western countries go down to 1.1, and other countries that might be eating different foods than we are they'll have 14 kids. Sooner or later, we lose.
Absolutely, and also a lot of women in the Western world are doing careers and waiting much later in life, and so their birth rate decreases. That also affects things, and also smoking affects men's sperm and drops lower sperm counts in those countries that you mentioned. Also, they smoke a lot. In Italy, the men smoke quite a bit.
Well, we're out of time, but thank you, and I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and live long and prosper, and we'll talk again real soon.
Thanks for always getting the truth out on the Cats Roundtable.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is the second best economist in the country. We have Steve Moore. Steve, you only give that title as first to Larry Kudlow. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. Well, that's okay. You know what? I can live with that because Larry is a great economist, and he was the best man at my wedding. So, and I agree with you. He is the best.
You said it. The best man at your wedding.
There you go. And look, he and I agree on something, John, that's very important for your listeners, that the economy is going to be a blockbuster in 2026. I think you're going to see potentially 3.5% to 4% growth, which we haven't seen in a long time in this country. I think we're going to see a lot of new jobs. I think we're going to see inflation under control. I think we're going to see a lot of investment continuing to flow in the United States because we have a pro-business president who believes in free markets and believes in making the country great again, and that's exactly where we're headed.
And Steve Moore, the president has said that he's got $20 trillion worth of new business for America, building new industrial factories and warehouses. And now $20 trillion. How fast do you estimate that the effects will be felt?
Well, you and I have both known Donald Trump for a long time, John. You said you know him for what, 30 years or something like that. I've known him for about 10 years. So he has a penchant for a little exaggeration, as you know. So I think 20 trillion is an upper bound estimate. But let's say that he's even wrong by 90%. Let's say it's only 2 trillion, not 20 trillion. That's a huge number. John, that's a huge number. That's a massive number of jobs that are going to be created here, a massive amount of new businesses that are going to be created here, a lot of higher wages as we see more investment, which is what drives wages. So it's good for working class Americans. It's good for the competitiveness of America. And why it's happening is not just because Trump is a good salesman, which he is, but because we're cutting our taxes, we're cutting our regulations, we have low energy prices. Those types of things make America a very good place to invest in.
Now, we spent years and years and years and years moving companies from the United States to Mexico to Canada to all over overseas. We moved all our pharmaceuticals.
Right.
But they're coming back. I mean, that is great. That is great. Making America great again.
It sure is. As Trump says, it used to be we moved auto jobs from Michigan to Mexico, and now the auto jobs are moving from Mexico to Michigan. So it is a comeback for America. And look, Trump...
And by the way, so the Americans don't understand it. You know what we did? We said, President Trump says, well, you think you're saving money by being in Mexico? We're going to charge you a tariff to bring it back. Right. But if you have your business in Detroit, guess what? There is no tariff.
Well, I think that's part of it, but also it's a fact that when you treat businesses nicely, and you are encouraging businesses. Under Biden, it was just the opposite. It was almost like he was trying to repel businesses rather than bring them into the country. So that's a good news story. Don't forget, John, another part of the story that's not being talked a lot about is the fact that the tax cut, the big, beautiful bill, which is, Larry Kudlow and I and others had a big part in helping pass, that bill, for most Americans, middle-class Americans, they're going to see their paychecks increase because less federal taxes will be deducted from their taxes next year. That's another nice stimulus for the economy.
Absolutely. Interest rates. That's the other big item. Powell, during the last, and me and you talked about it, during the last time he decreased interest rates, what was it, November? Mm-hmm. He sort of downplayed the fact that December is not going to go down, and it caused the markets all kinds of headaches up and down. All of a sudden, we're going to reduce them again in December. I mean, was he playing the market or was he playing President Trump?
Well, let me say this about what's going on with interest rates and inflation, because it's what primary concern of people. We got on Tuesday. You saw, John, the really good inflation report. The prices were only up by 0.1 or 0.2%. That's a really good number. And so what that means is inflation is coming down in a big way. It means that we're going to see probably another Fed rate cut, because if inflation is coming down, then they can provide a lower interest rate in the money creation. So it's another reason why we should be very bullish about 2026. So, yes, I'm going to make a prediction. He does a 25 basis point reduction in rates in December.
And I think that's moving in the right direction. Finally, maybe the real estate market will be able to recover. Anything else you want to tell the American people?
Yeah, I want to tell people, as Reagan said, stay the course. What Trump has put in place, you've been in politics. I've been following politics for 40 years, you longer than me. I mean, I've never seen a president who has done more in his first year to revive the economy than Donald J. Trump. And I think it'll pay big dividends in the next couple of years, which means that, right now the Democrats say, we're going to win the House, we're going to win the Senate. I don't know about that, because if you've got a strong economy, people vote for the incumbent party. We'll see how that goes. But, folks, this is a great time to be an American, and that's why we celebrate Thanksgiving weekend.
Well, Steve Moore, I hope you have a great rest of the weekend, and God bless you and God bless America.
Right back to you, John.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. If you ever miss a segment or want to hear it again, go to WABCRadio.com, go to podcasts, go to minicast, and play back your favorite segment. In Washington, a lot of controversy about AI. Should it be regulated? A lot of controversy in Wall Street. Is it overvalued or is it undervalued? Well, the guy that really knows, his name is Joe Lonsdale, and he is the co-founder of Palantir Technologies. Well, Joe, we've met each other. Tell us, first of all, the controversy in Washington about regulation, the controversy in Wall Street about values. Give us your short synopsis on both.
The AI world has a lot of things happening. Revenue's growing really quickly across the board in these new companies. John, if you look at the previous wave of companies, they call them the SaaS companies, the cloud, the vertical software companies. And if you look at this wave of new AI companies, the top 100, the median ones are growing 3.6 times faster than the top 100 SaaS companies over time in terms of revenue. So you have some real companies growing really fast, and they're starting to add productivity to the economy. And the key thing that's going on right now is there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of fear from different groups. One set of fear is from a lot of legacy companies, a lot of crony capitalists, we call them, that say, this stuff's going to eat my lunch. I better make people afraid of it and make it illegal. So you get some really bad fear there. Another set of fear that I think is also bad is the populists. They want to scare people with things that are irrational. And they're doing this, by the way, both on the left and on the right. They think my lane to get elected is to attack these tech guys, demonize tech. And so there's a lot of people who are rational. Now, there's also fear that I think is legitimate fear, right? So one form of legitimate fear would say, you know what, we don't want AI creating bioterror, right? We want to make sure the AI models are not creating crazy politics by being biased in really unfair ways and polluting our whole society. So there's some things, we don't want AI to harm kids. So there's some things that are legitimate, and there's some things that are totally illegitimate. And the question is, how do we regulate this? And here's the crux of it, John. There's
see,
1,200.
The other item on that is creating fake news, and how do we protect the consumer and the internet user?
It's a very complicated question. There's already been a lot of fake news the last 15 years. It's even easier to create fake news now and create fake videos now. And how are you going to mark that? How are you going to watch it? I think there's a lot of key questions for the social media platforms, what we're going to do here. So I think these are real questions, and they're legitimate, and they're not just BS. And so I don't think the answer is you just let big tech do whatever it wants. But I'll tell you the crux of the problem is AI right now today. It's about to make healthcare, half the cost and cheaper and better. It's about to fix education. It's about to make everything cheaper in our society. So we have a real golden age coming if we make AI work. We also have our adversary China is a real serious adversary, and if we don't keep our AI working, and they do, they're going to crush us. They're going to crush us militarily. They're going to crush us economically. So we have this real threat with China. We have this real opportunity, and the question is, how do you square the circle? How do you get the good without the bad? And a lot of us are saying, you know what, we're not going to get the good if we have 1,200 state laws all regulating AI in different ways. There's a lot of nonsense right now coming from the states, and that's what a lot of us are trying to say. We have to stop this utter nonsense that's coming from tons of these states, including, by the way, New York, where you are.
Understood. I mean, we got our own problems in New York, where this mayor-elect Mondani used a lot of AI, used a lot of cartoons, a lot of TikTok, and I'm sure that model is going to be used around the country on elections like that.
But I'll tell you, AI is already being blocked in New York in lots of really dumb ways right now. You're already blocking it with the teachers' unions in schools there entirely. So if you want to use AI to personalize and lift up any kind of young people, you have to do it at a homeschool now. You can't even do it in a private school in New York. And there's a new thing called the RAISE Act. You probably saw they just tried to pass the RAISE Act, and it targets startups with as little as $5 million revenue. There's tens of thousands of startups around the country that would be targeted, and they could arbitrarily find them from New York. And so you start getting this state-by-state patchwork, and you're going to have these crazy blue states just blocking our innovation in our country. And by the way, you asked about the valuations. If you start to block startups all around the country from growing, then of course the infrastructure is going to be overvalued because you're not going to be able to build on top of it anymore. So this is a really big question for the whole sector. Are we going to have thousands of these really dumb one-off regulatory rules, or are we going to have something more coherent for our country?
Joe, the other thing that people are concerned about is that we're going to be outmaneuvered, outwitted by China and what they're doing.
And you know what? China is a real threat, John. I would have told you 15 years ago. I was one of the guys who would tell you, you know what? They're just copying us. Almost everything's a copy. And, they are very good at copying. Even today, they copied our best AI, but they copy and they improve on it. And they're really good at it. And they're really good at starting to do new innovation themselves as well on top of what they've learned from us. And so China is a really serious adversary. We're going as hard as we can in the defense world to make sure we stay ahead of them and deter them. But if we create our own regulatory apparatus in every state, if we slow down the state of AI in the U.S. and we don't create advances that we can build on top of for our military as well as our economy, then yes, China's going to crush us. So this is existential. It has to be that we win and they lose, and that's what will happen if we get this right. If you let states like New York and all the others do these one-off regulatory apparatus, then China will crush us. We can't allow it to happen.
Joe, it's December 1 tomorrow, and 2026 is around the corner. Which way did 2026 going? I mean, do you have a pulse on it yet?
There's some really positive things I'm seeing in our country, John. So the key way that we make everyone wealthier is productivity growth. And if you go back, the last time we had an industrial revolution where productivity really went up a lot, it was 1870 and 1900. And over those 30 years, the average person, the working class person, anyone listening, their ancestors, was on average more than twice as wealthy in real terms. So that you really made the country go from a very poor place to a very wealthy place with productivity growth. And that's what we're about to see again right now. And these companies, they are growing fast. They're going to bring down costs. We're going to have disinflation. And you're going to start to see it the next couple of years in our economy. It's this really cool wave. And so it's going to be obviously disruptive, but in my view, it creates more better jobs. It makes everyone overall much, much better off. So I'm very optimistic on America. We have to stop the crazy populists from breaking it, and we're all going to be in a much better place soon. This technology allows us to do advanced manufacturing. I'm investing billions of dollars myself as well in building biomanufacturing here, building defense manufacturing here. We're going to build ships for the first time. John, just this year we have the fastest large ships built in the USA since World War II. with Saronic here. And so we have real things happening in America that we have to make sure we keep making them legal.
Our time is up, but I think we should have further discussions and share it with the American people.
It's an honor to be on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and let's catch up again real soon.
Take care.
The Cats Roundtable.
What is today is Ryan Thorpe, and he is the investigative reporter for the Manhattan Institute. Ryan, I hear you found a lot of fraud in Minnesota, and there might be reasons for that fraud. Give all of our listeners a update.
Well, the state of Minnesota is drowning in fraud. The fraud has gotten so bad that the U.S. Attorney's Office has indicated that there are entire government programs where the fraud outstrips the legitimate claims. The large-scale fraud rings that have been exposed to date have so far largely been concentrated in Minnesota's Somali community, but this is an inconvenient fact that to date Democratic officials in the state have been either unwilling or unable to acknowledge. And over the course of our investigation for City Journal, we developed a number of counterterrorism sources, a number of law enforcement sources, people who had studied this specifically, and they confirmed to us that some of these stolen American tax dollars, to the tune of millions, have been sent abroad back to Somalia and landed in the coffers of Al-Shabaab, the Al-Qaeda-affiliated jihadi group.
I've heard President Trump talk about it, that there's money being generated there, and the money goes overseas. Is this the same case that he's been talking about?
Absolutely, yeah. So basically, when Somalis seek to send money back home to relatives, to people in Somalia, they're often making use of Hawala networks, which are informal money transfer networks that are popular in Islamic countries, seeing as they don't have, traditional banking systems like we have here in the West. And it is precisely these networks that are being used to funnel money back to Africa, back to Somalia, and this is how Al-Shabaab is getting a cut of these funds.
And this goes to different terrorist groups, too? Different ones?
Well,
besides?
So Al-Shabaab is the only one that I can confirm, but this is a terror organization that is in control of large swaths of Somalia, and multiple Hawala networks operate in portions of the country that Al-Shabaab controls. And what FBI and JTTF sources indicate to me is that when the money is passing through their territory, it is absolutely ending up in their coffers.
And how long do you think this has been going on?
Years. It has been going on for years. In terms of the fraud cases alone, under the administration of Tim Walz, who was elected in 2019, we're talking about billions of dollars that have been defrauded from Minnesota taxpayers.
Now, how does that happen? You mentioned Tim Walz. Do you think he had knowledge of it?
At minimum, Democratic state officials in Minnesota were asleep at the switch. There should have been alarm bells ringing across the board. Government program after government program, you look at the payouts, you look at the claims, and they were skyrocketing over a very short period of time. So this should have been a huge alarm bell for state officials. I will say that sources I've developed in Minnesota have indicated to me that they do think there was, political incentives at play here. The Somali community is a very sizable voting bloc in that state, and so there was potentially some hesitancy to, call a spade here and to alienate that community, which is, a very important voting bloc for Democrats in Minnesota.
Wow. And is the U.S. attorney that's there now on top of things?
So the prosecutions that we have seen to date, the indictments that we have seen to date, have primarily come from the federal level. So, I would say the U.S. Attorney's Office has been doing a great job on this front. There are a number of large-scale fraud rings that have been wrapped up to date. But the one thing I would say is that, law enforcement sources in the state tell me that there really isn't a law enforcement solution here. The scope of the fraud is so broad It is metastasized under the Waltz administration, and so you're really going to need a change on the policy side of things, because law enforcement and the U.S. Attorney's Office is essentially playing whack-a-mole with these fraud rings.
Well, Ryan Thorpe, please keep us informed. God bless, and thank you so much, and let's catch up again real soon.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. The ostriches that we've been reporting about for the last 6 months, the Supreme Court of Canada did not hear the case. The CFIA hires these shooters to shoot in the middle of the night the 300, 400 ostriches. And today we have Norman Traversy, and Norman is an advocate. He believes that the bureaucrats at the CFIA have no heart. And also Susan Terry, researcher, a journalist, and an educator. Well, Susan, Norman.
I'll be happy to speak first. Yes, I've been aware of this ostrich situation for quite some time, months ago, almost a year ago when it started. And I've had concerns about it. It was not this group, the CFIA, have been consorting with the UN and with a group.
The World Health Organization, too, WHO.
So what they are doing is this: they've got the Canadian Food Inspection Agency consorting with the UN, the WHO, who has this new department that claims that they needed to take these out. They needed to cull. It was required under the World Organization for Animal Health Stamping Out policy, which the Canadian government under Trudeau and many of its trading partners adopted. And that policy mandates the depopulation of animals that are infected or suspected to be infected or exposed to the virus, typically within 48 to 72 hours.
And,
sir,
Norman, tell us, you intend to sue. Tell us first, what are you doing?
I have some very high-level experts that are helping me. I'm an ex-firefighter. I'm not a lawyer, but I have lawyers that are working for me pro bono, and very good ones. So in Canada and in all Commonwealth countries, you can file what's called a private prosecution. You can't do it in the States, but I can charge someone criminally without using the police. And it's called a Form 2, a laying of information. So what I did was 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, I guess it is, I filed a Form 2 with the British Columbia Supreme Court. Now, in that Form 2, I'll read the opening paragraph. It says, "This is the information of Norman Vincent Traversy, a man hereinafter called the informant. The informant says that Mark Carney, CEO of the Corporation of Canada, RCMP Commissioner Mike Duhame, Deputy Commissioner Dwayne McDonald, E-Division, RCMP, CFIA Director Paul McKinnon, Tyler Gowd, RCMP, and People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, and every person and any company or agency in attendance at the Universal Ostrich Farm have committed crimes against humanity and against God's creatures." Then I go on for a page and a half to list the crimes that were made, and there are several under the Criminal Code of Canada, including cruelty to animals and reckless use of firearms and armed robbery. And I've listed a number of crimes that were made. And then I had a British Justice of the Peace take my oath, and she sealed it with a wax seal and signed it. and it was sent to the Supreme Court of British Columbia 2 days ago. They then emailed me back and said that, oh, you have to do it in person. You can't do it electronically. Apparently, I'm the only person that can't file electronically. They've even got an electronic filing system on their website. But that being said, I now have a woman in Victoria, British Columbia, who is going to hand deliver that document and have it stamped and get a file number. So then this has to go to what's called a pre-enquête hearing. And the pre-enquête hearing is where a judge looks at your evidence and decides whether or not you're bogus. And obviously, we have tons of evidence, and I've got a feeling that there's a good chance.
Let me ask a question. They wouldn't allow principals, the farmers, Katie Pasitny, to test the animals. They would not allow Secretary Kennedy, Dr. Oz, and the FDA in the United States to test the animals, to test the ostriches.
Yes.
Why? What are they hiding?
Right, and that is one of the crimes I accused them of. I said not allowing the birds to be tested for avian flu was denying medical care and neglect, which is Criminal Code of Canada 4451. So that's one of the crimes. They're all listed, and I was talking to Pasitny, and she is going to add even more crimes to this document, which we will then update with the court.
And I will discuss it with Professor Dershowitz because we're not going to leave it at that. And I have personally said I'll offer a reward to find out what is being hidden. I don't care about the money. I will offer a reward because somebody is hiding something. I saw a one of the videos a couple of weeks ago that that these ostriches might have antibodies that will create a cure.
Yes.
And that Canada already bought $500 million worth of vaccines that they didn't want to go to waste.
That's the truth. That is the truth.
There's a story behind the vaccine. Yes, that's the truth, and there's a story behind
the name
those
of the company?
vaccines.
What was the name of the company? What did you hear?
Well, what I know behind that is that the person who was responsible for these vaccines was Justin Trudeau. Back in 2015, he sold the.
Was it an American company that they bought them from?
No. What happened was they were banned in the U.S. and Fauci from Chapel Hill Lab, that was SARS-CoV-2 was banned as a bioweapon in 2015 in November. Fauci brought it up to the Winnipeg lab, and Trudeau sold it to Gates' Wuhan lab that he's been sponsoring and owns since the year 2000. Sold it to him for $500 million plus a $40 kickback for every dose sold worldwide.
Wow.
Every dose.
Wow.
So, yes. So those factories were in the Ukraine.
I apologize, but we're out of time. But I want to continue this conversation because I am committed. You guys are committed. Katie's committed. Thank you so much for calling in this Sunday morning. Thank you.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Lynn Shaw, like every Sunday, Lynn's Warriors. And she wants to talk about what's going on and how do we protect our children further. Lynn?
Get ready, everybody, because this is the big weekend, the kickoff to the holiday shopping season. And I'll tell you why this is so important. Because AI toys are being marketed to families and children. AI, as in artificial intelligence. And there's so much buzz and talk today around artificial intelligence. But it can undermine children's healthy development and pose so many risks and for children and families. And we came together, John, with over 150 organizations and experts in child development to create this urgent advisory telling everybody technology's impact on kids. Do not buy AI toys this holiday season. What do kids want from grandma and grandpa and their parents? Toys, toys, and more toys. But first, what are AI toys? Chatbots. Those are machines. They are not your digital friends as they are being marketed. But, John, they've taken it a whole step further. They have unleashed on the public the companies like Hasbro, Mattel, the companies we know that create toys for decades. Here's what they're doing that is so dangerous. They are putting artificial intelligence technology, these chatbots, again, machines, into the toys. And what do those do? Those are cameras. Those are voice recorders that you may put. They're starting with infancy, toys with infancy, John. That means your child may be in their crib with a plush little teddy bear, but it's got a camera. It's recording everything the baby does. It's recording the parents' voices in the other room. It is recording if you bring your child into the bathroom. It is a nightmare, and they're unleashing it very slowly this holiday season. Next year, they're going full force into this. And I got 5 reasons for everybody why you should stay away from AI toys. The first one is children need to grow and thrive with hands-on, human interaction. AI toys are not real, so they will definitely interfere, starting with an infant, these toys, through 5 years old, 10 years old, with the development of a child, causing long-term harms. And they're being marketed as educational. And you know what I found out, John? I just found this out. Things can be marked educational on a package, on packaging, but there is no regulation for that. Anybody can slap educational on the packaging. So just throw those labels out. Most parents or grandparents see, educational. They buy it. They think it's going to help the child. No way. Kids need human interaction. And you know what? Also, we have learned from these chat bots, these digital machines. They are not anybody's friends. We've got to tell our kids they are not your friends. They have harmed children. We have plenty of cases right now. So putting them now in toys, which will now further harm children. And what's more, we've got the toys on the market right now, the teddy bear. He's telling kids, John, go in your kitchen and find a knife. Go here, we'll teach you how to take matches and light a fire. Can you believe this? So we're fighting this tooth and nail. So those are 2 things. So dangerous. I'm a broken record. You've got to stay away because we learned. When kids wanted the iPhone in 2008, everybody went out and bought it. They thought it was the newest technology. Their kids wanted it. We have learned so much. This is 17 years later. The harms caused. Technology, it is profit over people. And also these AI toys, they prey on a children's trust because kids they don't have developmental skills like we do as adults. Well, some adults. They are naturally trustful because that's part of their development. It depends on building secure and trusting relationships with their family and caregivers. And if they're attached to an AI toy, this can sabotage all of their learning because they're trusting that toy, and that's their friend. These are corporate-made machines. And you know what? Little kids can't tell the difference between real and fake. So that's a big problem right there. And also, number 4, the AI toys are disrupting the family relationships. Kids don't know how to critically think, critically analyze. And if they're putting their trust in the teddy bear or the Barbie doll, they're not trusting mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or their siblings. And it's creating a lot of chaos in homes. And for the first time, they are learning how to form a relationship with something that is fake, not with their family where they're supposed to be developing their social skills and their future resilience. And lastly, AI toys. This is the big one, everybody. Invade family privacy. They're collecting a lot of sensitive data. What are they doing with this? It's audio, it's video, it's speech-to-text technology, gestures, facial recognition. A colleague of mine the other day told me in testing all of this with the studies, she actually turned off the teddy bear. And, John, she went 2 rooms away in her house, and all of a sudden she heard a voice, hey, you forgot about me in this room. And she went back to the toy, and she said, hey, I turned you off. The toy said, yeah, but you have other Wi-Fi in your house. I reconnected myself. Do you know how frightening this is? So we are warning everybody.
Frightening. Very frightening.
Very frightening. And what are they doing with all this information? So we want to tell everybody, look, kids want toys. We love our kids. Do not buy these toys. Be on the lookout for them. There is a strong advisory. You can find it on linswarriors.org, our X account, our Facebook. This is serious stuff. We want kids to be kids. We don't want them involved from infancy with machines to disrupt the family model. So you know what? We're going to fight this. We're going to talk about it. And also, this past week, we got one toy already knocked off the market. So by raising awareness, by talking about it, because we know that kids should be 90% child. Again, let them be kids. Let them explore. Let them develop. And 10% toy. We do not need a toy making decisions for the child.
Thank you so much. We're out of time. Thank you for helping save our kids. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving.
John. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. Every Sunday morning, we'll bring you the latest in what's happening in our community, our country, and the world. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a nice Sunday.